Is it okay to use your mobile phone whilst you are sitting in stationary traffic, resting it on the steering wheel or wherever else you might be holding it? This is a question genuinely raised and genuinely debated in the comment section over on X or Twitter, if you'd prefer to still call it that, on TikTok and everywhere else for that matter. Now, this video is not supposed to come across as any sort of rant, but it will serve as a bit of a warning to those that don't understand the rules. So hopefully I can alleviate some of the confusion in this area and such questions such as, can you touch it if it's in the cradle? And things of that nature. But first of all, if you're new to me, I'm Daniel Smith, the Barrister of England and Wales. I enjoy helping you to understand law and on occasion demystifying some of these delusions. Now, if you are sitting in stationary traffic, you are still driving. Even if your vehicle is stationary, you are in charge of the vehicle and you are considered to be driving. Being in charge and driving are subtly different things, but you are still held to be driving the vehicle in stationary traffic because you haven't reached your destination. You haven't stopped. You haven't, as the courts have decided, gone through all the motions with completing your journey and bringing the vehicle to a standstill and parked position. So you are still driving. Therefore, if you use a mobile phone or other handheld device that is capable of two-way communication, regardless of whether those functions are active or not whilst you're driving, then you are guilty of the offence under Regulation 110, and you are going to be liable for 6 points and a fine. And if you've already got 6 points, that will take you to 12 points, which means the court will disqualify you from driving for a minimum period of 6 months unless you can show exceptional hardship, which is unlikely in most cases because it really is supposed to mean exceptional hardship, meaning someone is going to suffer greatly if you are disqualified from driving, and by default they are innocent. They shouldn't be punished and suffer because of your wrongdoing. But if you are in stationary traffic and you are using your phone in contravention of the regulations, you are guilty of that offence. But let's take a look at one or two examples, look at some problems, and then we'll look at the rules and answer this question. So first of all, looking at this one here. Now, this driver was photographed by Cycling Mikey, and I'll link the Twitter thread in the description for full credit. Now, the issue here, I mean, this is just a still, and Mike usually takes full video footage and reports the full video footage. And we're going to come to some of the comments and responses to this in a moment. If we zoom into this image here, now most people can see that in this portion here, this driver appears to all who probably will look at this to be resting his phone, and you can probably see this little bit here which looks like the strap on the case to a phone, resting it on the steering wheel. His eyes are gazing directly down at it. So from this image, he is almost certainly resting his phone, scrolling his phone in the vehicle in stationary traffic. Now, this has a significant problem called the WhatsApp gap. I'll come back to that in a moment. But the problem with this as a still image is that a lot of police forces probably won't prosecute on an image alone. They'll usually do it on video evidence so they can see the screen lit up to complete the offence. So images alone probably not going to cut it. But as I say, Mike usually submits video evidence. Now, here's another example, much clearer example. I believe the company has responded on X to respond to this is all I'll say. Let's zoom in and you can see this is a little bit clearer, that you can see his eye gaze directly down at the phone, obviously. Even here on this image, you can only just about see that it is lit up. Now, some police forces may still say, well, it's not clear that it's lit up. Well, I think it is. But again, video evidence would be far clearer. And so video evidence is usually preferred. But it's in his hand, and it certainly appears to me to be in use because his thumb's on it. So he's either pressing something or scrolling something. So it appears to be in use. But the problem with this really comes from the responses to such posts on X, such as this one here saying, I don't think he is, referring to the DHL driver. So that's just one opinion. He's entitled to that opinion and entitled to think that the driver's not using his phone. I don't agree. I think that he is, based on that picture. But again, someone else here says the picture is not conclusive. I hope the full video is. I would agree with that. The picture by itself is not conclusive, but I would hope that the video is. So I completely agree with that statement here. Someone here, a little bit cynical, says, one must remember you make a fortune from your videos by getting people sacked and fines and so on. It must make you feel important. In my opinion, you're, spelt incorrectly, no different to debt collectors and those who harass people for TV license. Well, I think they're very different, to be quite fair. But regardless of what is made from YouTube videos is no one's business but the creator. And again, this is just distracting from the original offence. No pun intended. But moving further on, someone else says here, obviously ridiculing Mike and saying, hi, my name is Mike. I have no life, bullied as a child, and I do this now to feel important in my sad life. Well, I'm sure Paul would feel very differently if one of Paul's loved ones was involved in an accident caused by the phenomenon known as the WhatsApp gap, which, as I said, I will come back to in a moment. Now, someone else says here, why are you taking your attention off the road, Mike? You're in the wrong. You're both in the wrong. Someone else says, no, he isn't. This won't stick, you sad little beta. Well, if it's based on this photograph, I agree it might not stick. But I still disagree. I think that he is. That's just my view. Kevin says it's not enough you're bubbling the fella up, i.e. reporting him, but got to put it all over the socials. Just report him if you have to, but I, for one, ain't interested, and maybe you should watch the road more, keep taking videos, let's hope nothing serious happens to you. This could be taken as a veiled threat. But it's not just that post either. It happens on all sorts of posts, like this one here. Someone here making what seems like a very genuine comment to say, just out of interest, is he sitting at a red light? Whilst still illegal, at least he acknowledges that, it's not something to get angry about if he stopped at a red light and checking his phone. But this is where we come to what we refer to as the WhatsApp gap and the distraction and lack of attention. Because regardless of whether people believe it or not, the distraction from a mobile phone lasts far longer than the few seconds that you're looking at it. Up to 30 seconds or a minute after you've put the phone down, it has been shown that you remain distracted from the road and everything around you whilst you continue your journey. Hence, we talk now about the WhatsApp gap. You very often will see vehicles with a huge gap in front of them where people get to stationary traffic and their first instinct is to pick up their phone because they've got to stationary traffic, they can't go anywhere, their mind gets bored very quickly just like that, and so they pick up their phone for the latest stimulating interaction it provides. However, when they are distracted by the phone, obviously they're not paying attention to the traffic in front, the traffic moves on, a gap opens up, and hence it's been dubbed the WhatsApp gap. Now, no direct criticism and labelling or finding of fact from me about the app WhatsApp. It's just what it's called, and that's why I'm referring to it. But the real problem with it is this. When the driver realises that the gap has opened up, their immediate reaction is to A, drop the phone, usually, and B, more importantly, to immediately close the gap because they're worried that the driver behind is going to get frustrated. Now, in doing so, they immediately pull forward, but without any real attention to what's going on around them, whether it be pedestrians, other cyclists, motorcyclists, other drivers that might have got frustrated and tried to overtake, buses that might be pulling in, or other vehicles might be pulling out, whatever. These vehicles move forward without any real concern for what's going on around them. Now, again, I know I'm going to get a flood of comments into this video from some people. Not most of you, you understand. Most of you I trust, but some people will say this isn't a problem and you're making something out of nothing, etc. But this is a very real thing. People are injured every day because drivers are distracted from the road. Now, let's move to the burning question that people have. Can you touch it if it is in some kind of cradle? Now, this is some kind of cradle. This is a desk cradle. It's quite good. I'll link it in the description below as an Amazon affiliate link. Legally speaking, the answer is it depends. The strict answer to the question is it doesn't contravene the Regulation 110 regulation, but you can be prosecuted if you are distracted from the road. So if, for example, you were just looking at the sat nav and there was an alert and you just cleared the alert whilst it's in a cradle, that would probably be fine. If you get a phone call, I mean, I don't recommend that you do this, but if you get a phone call and it's in some kind of cradle, like my desk cradle here, and it's in some kind of cradle, and you just press it to answer the call whilst it's in a cradle, legally speaking, that doesn't break Regulation 110. But if you are scrolling through it, looking for a contact, and you're trying to find who this person is to call them whilst it's in a cradle, you are, in my view, sufficiently distracted from the road that you could be prosecuted for careless driving, just driving without due care and attention to the road. And again, you can go to court, again, you can get fined, etc. So regardless of whether the phone is in a cradle, I would still advise you, this is one of the few times I will say that it's advice, I would advise you not to touch the phone at all. Now, save for genuine emergencies. Now, there are genuine emergencies drafted into Regulation 110. And the other exception is if you're going through a drive-through and you are stationary, you are parked and you're making a contactless payment and the food or the product or the service is delivered immediately or immediately after you've made that payment. That is the other exception to this rule. But otherwise, I would say leave it in a cradle and leave it alone. If you're using a sat-nav, set it before you go and don't touch it unless you absolutely have to, and keep that to a minimum and make sure at all times that you are focused on the road. So I hope that answers a few questions. I hope it clarifies some of the confusion, and I hope on some small level it might ultimately serve to change at least one person's mind about whether this is safe or not. And if it does that enough times, then hopefully it will end up saving someone from being injured, and most importantly, it might ultimately save someone's life. If you found that interesting, please do like the video, subscribe to receive more. I am grateful every time you do that. I am just coming up on 370,000 subscribers here on this channel. If you want my personal views, I've been doing Vlogmas now for 15 days. I've enjoyed doing that. They're all over on Black Belt Secrets, linked in the description below. I will do some more videos with our Alan Robertshaw on the art of law. And if you want to learn how to build wealth, I have another channel, which is called Daniel Shensmith, which I'll also link in the description below. I have lots of channels. I enjoy making videos and I enjoy YouTube, obviously. So thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.